Hi, my name is Seth Steeple. I'll be talking to you today about an informational speech about guns and the history of them. Well, I guess we better just start off of why they were invented. Many people believe that some people invented them for sport, but the actual answer is people invented guns or something that fires a projectile for winning battles or wars or something to use against their enemies to kill them. And the first known, there's actually two people, depending on which source you think is most correct, which personally I think it's the one from PBS that I have posted in the paper, the link's on there, says that the first known gun was built by the Chinese to attack their enemies, and they would get a piece of bamboo, just a straight piece, and it would work kind of like a blow torch, but instead they hollowed out the entire thing, and they would put black powder on this side with a little hole so they could have a fuse running down to it, and they would light it, and it would just burn all the way down, explode the black powder, and then blow up and fire a projectile, and it would end up killing their enemies if they were good at firing a piece of bamboo that's on fire. Which would be really hard. Other people think that the first gun was made by the Europeans. Same idea, but it was a cannon made out of iron, and so I believe it was the Chinese because that seems a lot more primitive, like that could have been the first technologies made. So that's what I believe. Some of the biggest advancements in guns that have happened since then, gotta tell you in order. In around the 1400s, they came out with a gun for the king that connected to the trigger. This was the first time they'd come out with a trigger, because before you just hold the gun and then light it with like a match or something, and then you would have to fire it and then load it, light another match. Very ineffective. So now came out with a thing where you still had to load the black powder and the musket ball, but instead of having to light your own match, they hooked a blunt, which is the thing you use for fireworks that are just, they're red hot and they're on fire and they burn for a really long time, and it is connected to this little piece of iron hooked to your gun, and when you pull the trigger, it'd pull a pin and this thing would fall down onto the black powder, making it explode and fire the projectile. This was really, really cool because it was the first time you would be able to hold the gun with two hands, and it made you a lot more accurate, which, I mean, duh. The next biggest the next biggest advancement would be the musket. The musket came out around the 15 to 1600s. It was, you still had to load black powder and a musket ball into there, but instead of having to have something on fire, you could, like, it could be weathered more, like it would last longer. What they did is they hooked a piece of flint to the thing that was the blunt, and it would come down and hit a piece of steel, and it would spark and ignite the black powder, sending the musket ball, which was a lot more effective because you didn't need to keep the thing lit. It could be out in the cold or in the rain. I mean, it was iffy in the rain, but it was better in the rain than the old original one with the blunt connected to it. So that was a big, big advancement. The next big advancement, let me see if I have one right here. I do. The next big advancement was made by a man named Samuel Colt. He was the inventor of the Colt 45, which won the West. But the thing that Samuel Colt came out with was this, which we now know as a bullet. Now this was cool because instead of having to spend time loading the gun, or, just, it was, the olden time guns were very tedious, and sometimes they didn't work, and they took too long to load, and people would get shot while they're trying to load. But this is already packed with gunpowder. This is a piece of flint and steel, so that on this back end right here, there's a little circle. On Samuel Colt's gun, the first one he made, a pin would hit that little circle that I just showed you and ignite the bullet, sending the projectile a lot harder with a lot more force. And it ended up being a lot more easier to use because now you can just load a bullet into a gun, right? Which was so much easier. People were like, wow, this is crazy. So then the next big advancement is a clip. This is a clip. So a clip is something that can hold bullets, right? So you can shove a bunch of cartridges in there so that you can keep firing over and over again. See, I have a bunch in this one right here. That one, that one, that one. Yeah, you get the picture. They hold a lot more bullets. And this was invented around the 1800s. And this was amazing because now instead of having to load a bullet one by one in at a time, you could load 7 into a gun and fire 7 bullets in 15 seconds. And this was the newest, craziest thing ever. And it would actually decimate people in the Civil War, and which is actually pretty sad. But it's kind of cool that we figured that out. That's about the biggest known advancements. Now, the next biggest would be a automatic gun, which would later come, where the trigger would the pin would bounce off the explosion and just keep sending bullets. Nowadays they can send like ridiculous amounts of bullets off in very, very small amount of time. I don't have one. I want one, but I don't have one, so I can't show you. But anyways, nowadays, with guns, people use them for protection. Our police enforcement uses them to show their authority. Guns have a very big role in today. People use them for sport. We still use them in Iraq and wars. There's actually like 2 really different categories of guns, but there's about 4 different types of guns. I'll show you. I have them all right here. Except for one, I don't have an automatic assault weapon. This is a 40 millimeter. This gun is it kicks back really, really hard. But anyways, this is the first category of guns. It's called a handgun. And instead of having to hold it against your shoulder, you hold it like this. That's what a handgun is. We've all seen one in James Bond movies, right? Okay, so that's a handgun. This is a rifle. And it's actually just a really, really old .22. But this was made before we had clips, because right here you'd load the bullets in. Right there onto that, you'd have to load them in one by one, take your shot, load another bullet, take your shot. So that's why the invention of the clip was so great. Anyways, so this one will just fire bullets, just like the one I showed you. And this it actually kind of mixes between the shotgun and the assault weapon. So the shotgun will fire pellets, like 100 of them, and they kind of spread out. And it's what people use for shooting ducks or geese. But this one is actually an assault one, so it's automatic. It's semi-automatic. Boom, boom, boom. You have to take your trigger off and then shoot, and it'll go. But this is a really cool weapon. And that's all the categories we have. And so, yeah, some gun safety is never point a gun at anything unless you mean to destroy it. Never have your hand on the trigger unless you're ready to shoot. Always keep the gun pointed away from any people. Treat it like it's loaded. It's a dangerous weapon. And Um, my personal ones are keep them away from kids unless you're trying to teach them how to use them correctly, and that's about it. Thank you.